Let's be honest. Most people avoid discomfort like the plague. The moment a conversation feels awkward, a belief is challenged, or a situation pushes us outside of what we know, we pull back, we get defensive, we change the subject. But what if I told you that everything you want, like growth, success, real connection, authenticity, all of it, lives on the other side of that discomfort? What if leaning into it instead of running from it is the key to everything you've been searching for? That's what we're talking about today. Why the things that make you uncomfortable are the very things that will set you free. Let's chat about how you can rebel against your self-imposed limiting beliefs and lean into the evolution of true openness and connection. Think about the last time you were in a conversation that rubbed you the wrong way. Maybe someone questioned a belief you've always held. Maybe they challenged you to see something differently. What was your first instinct? To listen? Or to defend? Or to just close yourself off? Most commonly, it is to defend. You feel the shield forming and ignite your weapon. That reaction is wired into us. Our brains crave certainty. They're constantly searching for familiarity in our environments to acknowledge safety. That's our survival mechanism. So when someone says something that challenges our beliefs or what we think we know, then we clam up and we feel we must protect everything as we know it. However, if we want something different than what we already have, then we have to be willing to rebel against our comfort and lean into the unknown. Okay, you may be saying, but Stacy, I am just fine the way I am, and I don't want anything to be different. And I can appreciate that. But then I ask you, how are your connections? How well do you feel people understand you? How are your relationships? Can people give you honest feedback? You may say, of course they can, but do they? And maybe you don't want any feedback. Fine. But I do know the beauty of this world is the ability to connect with each other, to learn and understand each other with respect and true openness. Speaking frankly, if I can, you don't know it all, and neither do I, but your beliefs are just trusted information that you've received and stored in your memory to deem true. And so can you honestly converse and be open to considering your beliefs as just a piece of your current knowingness? Let me say that again. Can you honestly have a conversation and be open to considering that what you know as your beliefs is just a piece of what you currently know? Not judge someone for their thoughts, their outlandish and in your mind, ideologies, way of life, and their beliefs. Can you have a conversation with openness and acceptance? One particular conversation comes to mind when we're talking about this, of what could have turned into a difficult and judgmental dialogue between me and a very good friend. We were sitting on my couch talking about a job opportunity that came to her from a friend. It was the opportunity to work for a state representative. However, she said, unfortunately, she realized who it was and she couldn't do it. And I said, oh, why? Because you're in Missouri and they're in Kansas? And she said, no, because I'm registered Republican and they're Democratic. Now, let me just say that so we're in Kansas City, and Kansas City, the state line is right in the middle of the state. So oftentimes we are dealing with a lot of interstate situations. So now my close friend knows me, and she knows that I am likely going to ask more questions and unravel the discussion, which it's in my oxygen. I can't help it. So it's part of why I started this podcast. So I asked her, thinking that she didn't really mind the politician, why does that matter? Now, I also know that she may be registered with one party, but she's open, and I would say more balanced and understanding that we need need both parties to operate effectively. So I asked more about it. Our conversation went into what she felt was her biggest Republican belief, which was that her grandchildren shouldn't have to share a locker room with another gender. Now, I don't bring this up to go down this road. However, I am not afraid of this road and will likely be down it eventually, but not today. I bring it up to dig into the healthy respect of this conversation. Her and I often have conversations like this that challenge our own beliefs and give us space and grace to think about why we feel that way in the first place. It turned into a very interesting conversation about genders and what they mean and why. It could have turned easily into a defensive or judgmental debate, but it didn't. However, it really got me thinking more about everything we've discussed. So I look forward to digging deeper into the root of that topic, but again, not today. My point is that she knows me well enough to know that it was a healthy, educational, curious, that's the important part, curious conversation. What I ultimately crave. It got us both thinking, and it really made me question what gender is in the first place. Maybe fighting words, but if you feel triggered by everything I'm saying right now, good. I want you to be triggered. I challenge you to take that emotion that you are feeling boiling up from just a mention of a topic and simply dissolving it. Because learning to challenge and respect each other is so needed in this world. I love when I am triggered. It is a me problem that I get to learn more about, not a them problem. Why am I triggered? What is inside from a past experience that caused me to feel or believe this way? I personally enjoy being open. Of course, I catch myself trying to close off, but attempt to reopen every time. I'm always pivoting, and the day I feel I've learned it all, how boring. And if we never challenge the things that make us uncomfortable, we'll stay stuck. And, in the great words of a badass woman, Martha Stewart, if you're through changing, you're through. Welcome to Rich Connections, where we rebel, root, rise, and live richly. The podcast that dares to go where others won't. I'm Stacy Rich, a life and business advisor. I'm here to shake things up, challenging the norms, breaking the rules, and inviting you to think deeper, feel more, and step into your most unapologetic, turned on life. Here we talk about the things that matter, but aren't always easy to say, like intimacy, relationships, gender roles, money, power, and the energy that drives it all. We don't shy away from the raw, the real, and the rebellious, because if you want a life that's truly rich in passion, purpose, and prosperity, you have to unlearn the stories you were told, rebel against the conditioning that keeps you small, and root yourself in your own truth. That's how you rise, and that's how you live richly. So, if you're ready to explore, expand, and embrace a life that turns you all the way on, you're in the right place. This is Rich Connections. Let's dig in. I started this podcast because I love to question everything. Beliefs, relationships, business, success, even myself. It started with wanting to know the big answers in life. Like, where did we come from? Where do we go when we die? Why are we here in the first place? Those types of questions. I've asked those since I was younger. But since I was a child, I grew up like every other millennial watching Oprah. And you'll hear a lot about her, but I watched her religiously every day with my mom. What I loved so much was the ability she had to create space for people to be seen and understood. And I realized that all people actually desire this. I remember specifically when I was a teenager. Now, I'm going to tell on myself here, but I anticipate I will do that often in this space. So I have prepared myself for the discomfort of the judgments. So I was a mad junior hire, like mad. And I don't know why, but I didn't get along with this girl. Why? I have no clue. but I pushed her down a few stairs, and she thankfully wasn't hurt, but just stumbled. I actually just planned on running into her and misjudged my strength. But that moment, I remember seeing her face, and it was embarrassment, pain, helplessness, and just sheer defeat. And in that moment, I had an outer body experience, seeing myself as a very bad person, which I never wanted to be. And I thought of Oprah. I thought of her kindness and her way to help people rise in their authenticity and not belittling them because I disliked them for whatever reason. I swore I never wanted to be that person that made others feel as bad as I know I made her feel. And if you're out there, I won't name you, but if you know who you are, I deeply apologize. But I believe this is when I began obsessing over personal development and how to be a better person. I started to read self-help books in like 7th and 8th grade. I think this was 7th grade, actually. I read self-help books on Buddhism, the Bible, and other religious and educational books that I thought would educate me on how to be the light in our others' lives and not the bully. I read a lot on how to not judge, which is incredibly difficult and an interesting topic within itself. I'm not really sure why I clinged so deeply to Buddhism, but for some reason, it really registered with me. I specifically cling to the Buddhist way of limiting suffering. In Buddhism, a core belief is that unfulfilled expectations are a major source of the pain. The non-judgmental way, or Upekkha, which is equanimity. I can't say that word, but that's what it means. Basically, equanimity. Never mind, I give up. Which, in an article called The Buddhist Art of Non-Judgmental Judging is Subtle by Barbara O'Brien. She states so beautifully, so I want to make sure I state it like she says, that it is the ability to walk freely between attraction and aversion without being swayed by likes or dislikes. That is so beautiful. So non-attachment to a thought towards something or someone. And I believe that if you can achieve that, you've reached enlightenment, which is what I ultimately have always used as my compass. And needless to say, I'm always evolving. And I believe that is what makes life so fun and magical. I know what it's like to consistently grow out of spaces that no longer fit and wonder if there's anyone else who feels the same. And growth can be a difficult plant, but when it blossoms, it's beautiful. If you've ever felt that pull, the desire to dig deeper and rethink what you've been taught, you are my people. You are what I'm going to call a rich rebel like me. Growth doesn't have to be a lonely road, like I've heard people say. So let's do it together. I want to share, while we are rebelling against our self-imposing limits together, that my biggest discomfort is upsetting others or letting them down. I am what I'm going to call a recovering people pleaser. I used to avoid that discomfort at all costs, and I'm really working on that right now as we speak. If something felt awkward or confrontational, I'd find a way around it, change the subject, laugh it off, or convince myself it wasn't worth addressing. This is what I'm working on currently, and I'm learning that it's not doing the other individuals of service to pacify the difficult conversation and avoid mirroring their own needs for growth as well. That trying to be the light doesn't always look shiny. So I'm challenging myself to rebel against my own unease and improve my boundaries of tolerance. To be continued. The turning point came when I realized that avoiding discomfort wasn't protecting me. It was limiting me. It was keeping me small, keeping me from stepping into the kind of confidence and clarity that I ultimately wanted. One moment stands out was with an individual who is no longer in my life. Now, I'm completely satisfied with this outcome. It was inevitable. However, the way we got here is my growth. See, I am really good with energy. And I'll talk about that more at some point. I have been able to read it since I was a younger child, and it has never steered me wrong. And one day, me and this person were on the phone, and I was opening up about a struggle. I felt a shift in their energy towards me. It felt judgmental and ridiculing, so I shut them out from that day on for my own peace, which this behavior wasn't uncommon, but this particular moment was a vulnerable time in my life, and I knew I didn't have any tolerance for that type of energy. From that point on, I disconnected and kept waiting for them to reach out to check on me, and they never did. And in fact, began keeping log of anything I could do to piss them off or let them down, leading up to the moment they blew up on me. They had a right to their feelings because it's their perspective, and all is well. However, what I learned, which is what matters most for me, is that I feel discontent with my ability to speak up and say how I felt or defined my boundary in the moment. I hope to never let that happen again, and I'm a better person from the experience, but those types of conversations are the ones that I am really working on not cowarding to any longer. And that experience taught me that the real growth happens when we stop running and start listening to our reactions, our resistance, and the things we're afraid to admit. So, how do we actually do this? How do we stop avoiding discomfort and start using it to grow? Well, this is one of the key reasons I decided to start this podcast, because I love nothing more than to rebel against the societal norm and challenge our beliefs and values as we know them. Lean into the discomfort and question why we feel the way we feel something. And not to be difficult, like I feel is the opinion I'm often met with, but to make us think and truly understand ourselves. There's 3 key ways that I believe as we embark on this journey together that will help us have compassion, be open, and question our own limits. So I want to share them with you because I believe that as we go on this journey, and we are going to be talking about difficult topics and things that, we all really want to talk about but never do because we're uncomfortable. I really want to create a space that allows us to go into that conversation and really dive in. But I need you all to really do this with me. So I'm going to give you 3 key ways of how we can do this. Number 1, notice your reaction. The next time something makes you uncomfortable, whether it's a conversation, a new idea, a new job, taking a leap of faith to become an entrepreneur, or just a challenge in general, just pause, take a deep breath, assess your reaction. Instead of reacting immediately and just closing off or turning away, ask yourself, why is this making me feel this way? What belief is being challenged? Now ask yourself that next time you are challenged or uncomfortable. Now, number 2, this is my favorite because I believe that this is the core of unlayering and understanding. Number 2, get curious instead of defensive. Discomfort isn't a bad thing. It's an invitation. What would happen if instead of shutting down, you leaned in and explored what was really underneath it? What would happen if the next time you are faced with a difficult conversation or a difficult opportunity or challenge or thing that can open you up to the unknown? What if you leaned into that and you asked yourself, why am I feeling this way? And you dealt with the core of that. Now, number 3, practice sitting in it. We don't have to fix discomfort right away. Sometimes the biggest growth comes from just sitting in it, feeling it, noticing it, journal about it, and letting it teach us something. So at the end of the day, discomfort isn't the enemy. It's the doorway to deeper self-awareness, stronger relationships, and a life that's actually yours, not just the one you were told to live. And that's exactly what this podcast is here for. Rich Connections is a space where we can get uncomfortable without judgment. And that's the part that I really want to hone in on, without judgment, where you can explore new perspectives safely, where growth doesn't have to feel so lonely. So, if you're ready to challenge yourself, to lean into the hard conversations, and to rethink the way you live, love, and connect, subscribe. Share this with someone who's also craving deeper conversations and really learning to be authentically themselves without worrying about judgment. And let's start getting uncomfortable together. Because on the other side of that discomfort, that's where the magic happens. This is just the beginning. This is the beginning of unlayering our judgments, questioning our insecurities, and opening ourselves to deeper exploration of ourselves, of each other, and the world around us to create richer experiences. If today's episode made you think, made you pause, or even made you uncomfortable in the best way, then let's keep going, because this was nothing. I'm just getting started. And seriously, Rich Connections is all about diving deeper, and I want you to be a part of this journey. The next few episodes, I am building the foundation of what we are doing here together. We're learning to rebel, root, rise, and live richly. So, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. If this conversation resonated with you, please leave a review. It helps me. It helps more people find this safe space. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, share it with them. Most importantly, I would love to hear from you. What did this bring up for you? What topics would you like to hear more about? What discomfort are you sitting with? Let's keep the conversation going. You can connect with me on all socials. Just check my profile for the links. Email me at richconnectionspodcast@gmail.com or head over to our website, richconnectionspodcast.com, for any resources from this episode and any additional updates. Because the truth is, growth isn't meant to be done alone, and here in this space, we're getting uncomfortable together. Until next time, rebel, root, rise, and always live richly.